Republican leaders continuing to express confidence following Biden's announcement. We spoke with Harmeet Dillon, an attorney and a member of the California GOP. She said that she does not expect a Harris-led ticket to fare any better than Biden's campaign.
I think if I'm a Democrat governor, Senate candidate, uh, representative for Congress in a close race, I'm panicked by this choice because I think Kamala Harris has actually got negative coattails. She's unappealing, she's fake, she's DEI, and she's Biden effectively. And the country wants something else right now. That's what the polls are showing. That's what business leaders are showing. That's what Americans who are afraid for their safety, security, and their pocketbooks are all trending towards.
Now, we are learning more about the next steps for the Democratic Party as the 2024 election inches closer. We are bringing in now political science lecturer at San Jose State, Donna Crane. Donna, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to start with the first question, but probably the biggest question. What happens next? What are the next steps for the Democrats?
Oh, there's a lot of things that happen next. Okay, let's look at the next really big landmark event. So, in a month, the Democrats will come together in Chicago at the convention. That is technically where they will select their nominee. So the mechanical part of that is that the delegates cast votes. Nominations are accepted from the floor. This is all largely ceremonial, but this is the nuts and bolts of a party picking its nominee. So that is sort of the big event on the horizon. Between now and then, though, they've got to sort of reboot a presidential campaign with a new person at the top of the ticket. She's got to clear the field of other potential contenders, and it looks like that's even happening today. She's got to pick her own running mate. She's got to, smooth the feathers of donors and unite the party, and then hopefully, from her point of view, surf the wave into the convention in a month.
In the game, Virginia starts voting in late September. What are the implications of picking a new nominee at this stage and possibly going into that convention as an open convention?
Well, we don't know because this has never really happened before. Even when LBJ pulled out of the race took himself out of the race in 1968, he did that in March. So we don't really know. I've always watched other countries' elections with interest. For example, the UK has a maximum of a 6-week election. And I always thought that was sort of interesting as a political practitioner. We're going to see something not too much longer than that here. So, she's going to have access to the money they raised. So that's not a problem, but she's going to have to continue raising money, and hopefully, from her perspective, unite a party that is incredibly fractious. She's been through the meat grinder of a presidential campaign before, both as a candidate and as VP, so she should be accustomed to that and to the pace. But, the polling right now has her neck and neck with Donald Trump, so she's going to have to run a formidable race and to do it all in an incredibly compressed timeline.
Donna, you just mentioned the fractured Democratic Party, but what does it say that at this point we haven't had another candidate throw their hat in the race, even Governor Newsom's endorsing Kamala just minutes ago?
Yeah, today, among the other things I was watching for, I was sort of checking off on the list of people I thought might be top tier contenders if she was not able to clear the field, and just, marking them off as they all came out and endorsed her. I think what it says is that for the last 3 weeks, Democrats have were first alarmed by what they saw at the presidential debate, and then grown increasingly dismayed, alarmed, panicked. And the news today gave a lot of them a chance to say, okay, there's a plan going forward, the opportunity for some order to what has been a very disorderly and panicked 3 weeks.
So, well, it looks like the vice president at this moment is the front runner to become the new nominee. It is far from a done deal. Joining us live now is Sonoma State political science professor David McCuan. David, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And thank you for taking some time. Good deal. I appreciate you taking some time. Look, Lyndon Johnson in 1968 stunned everybody. I don't even know if Lady Bird knew that night in May of 68 that he was going to, I think Lady Bird did know, that he was going to say, I'm not running. He spent 15 minutes talking about the Vietnam War. Then he turned to the cameras and said, if you nominate me, I will not accept. And if elected, I will not serve. So Johnson did it in May. Um, do you think that in President Biden's case, he waited too long to make such a significant decision?
That's a great place to start. Look, there are some similarities to 1968 and LBJ and the timing, but obviously we're in a completely different media universe,
Mhm.
a completely different political universe, partly because of what came out from 1968. This is really much more like 1964 for Republicans, 1968 for Democrats, and 1860 for the nation. That's what's at stake this particular election. And so that's really a big deal. Did he come out so late? Sure. Have Democrats had their hair on fire since that awful debate? Yes. But they've also been in disarray and disunity while the Republicans have been energized and on a mission. This juxtaposition does change with this announcement. There's no question about that. Democratic National Committee, the DNC, the Rules Committee will meet after 48 hours, probably on Wednesday. They'll set forth what happens to Joe Biden's delegates. So that means Kamala Harris has 48 hours to lock this up. After that, things can get a little bit squirrely. So we have to pay attention to that. But she is clearly the de facto kind of nominee. She's clearly the person who has first right of refusal. Everyone else is an also ran. That also gives Democrats focus. So the race is now joined. The problem is, we're 4 weeks out and, 100 some odd days, out from the election itself. So there isn't a lot of time.
Have you seen the latest polls about how Kamala Harris would do vis-a-vis going head-to-head with Donald Trump? Is it any better than Biden?
It's slightly better than Biden in certain states, but you got to take a couple things into account. These are mostly registered voter polls, not likely voter polls. We want to pay attention to swing states. Donald Trump gets a little bit of a bounce from the convention. He gets a little bit of a bounce from the attempted assassination. Those are largely a wash. Democrats will get a little bit of a bounce from their convention. That means in Labor Day, the traditional kickoff, there will be virtually a dead heat race. And just to draw your attention, no Democrat has received more than 54% of the popular vote since 1964. So we'd forecast a close race. The difference here, though, is Kamala Harris is multiracial. She's a woman. Those are huge components to this race, especially when you're facing Donald Trump. And the unity message has gone away. That's not a surprise in some ways. But what does she do when she's the person on the ticket, if she's the nominee? And what does her vice presidential candidate look like? And what does that ticket do? And how do Democrats do down ballot? These are all open questions that will dominate the convention because Democrats don't want a repeat of Chicago in 1968. And, they often have these group therapy sessions before the nation. You don't want to have that happen in this particular political environment.
Yeah, the days of Mayor Daley are long behind, but it is eerie. And that 1968 convention was a convention for the ages and not in a good way. Professor David McCuan, I appreciate it. David, thank you so much.